in America need Haute Hijab because they need more options as Muslim women with what to wear. Unfortunately, it's really difficult to find good quality and beautifully designed hijabs. You'd think it would be easy, but it's not. And so as Muslim American women, we want to contribute to our society. And part of doing that is the way that we dress, because we want to be approachable. We don't want to feel as though people, we don't want to create a barrier around ourselves with our hijab. And I feel as though wearing clothing of our culture, which is American, helps to demystify the hijab and to break down any barriers of ignorance or miseducation so that we can contribute to our society and so that people can feel as though, okay, she's just like any other woman. For me, and the woman I designed for is a Muslim woman who is active, who is vocal, who is empowered, who feels as though she needs to serve her community and her society, and she finds her niche within her community, within the world, to serve. And that's something that's so part and parcel of our faith, and something that I think gets neglected, especially for Muslim women, unfortunately. But I mean, even if you just look at the number of Muslim American professionals, there are more Muslim women professionals than any other religious group in America. So, we make it a point to understand what our calling is and to pursue it. So, this whole movement of modesty in general is something that appeals to everybody, Muslim or not. I feel as though women today have such a pressure upon them to dress in a certain way, to look a certain way, that the very values that our country was even founded on are deteriorating. And I know that there are many women who feel as though they have to dress a certain way, but if they had the choice, wouldn't do that without those societal pressures. So this movement or inspiration of bringing modesty back is really just to tell women that it's as empowering to cover up as it is to undress. And it's as liberating. And just as women have the freedom and have the right to wear less, they have the freedom and the right to wear more. So today it's so different, because back then Facebook was really the only social media platform that existed. There was no Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, Pinterest, none of that existed yet. So as these social media platforms came about, then we had to also adapt and find our little voice within the social media platform. So once we got on Instagram, I would say that's when things kind of took off, because the hijabi blogger or the fashionable hijabi, I would say that whole world that's really exploded on Instagram. Eras for me are the 40s and the 50s, definitely. Particularly the 50s, I would say. So one of the very first designs I ever did was a peplum skirt, and this was way back in 2010, so before the peplum exploded. And I just love that design because it covered the hips and the behind area in such a beautiful silhouette. And what we saw in the 40s was this peplum on a dress. So I kind of made it into a long skirt, and it was one of our best sellers. So definitely the 40s and 50s, the silhouettes were just so beautiful, so put together, and very ladylike. The vast majority of them live right here in the U.S. We're a U.S. company. We started here. My roots are here, and I designed very much for the American Muslim woman. Outside of that would be other Western countries, Europe, Australia, Canada, and then into the Middle East. I think it's really interesting what's happening is they're realizing that there is this niche market with a very real need, and that they have a buying power in the billions of dollars. And so they are catering to that. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I love the fact that they're doing that for two reasons. Number one, it helps like I said, demystify hijab and normalize the hijab within the mainstream, so that when the next time you're at the grocery store or at the doctor's office and you see somebody with the hijab, you say, oh, okay, I've seen that in this Dolce & Gabbana campaign. And at the same time, for Muslim women, it helps them because when they know and understand that the hijab has been normalized, they don't feel the pressure not to wear it. A lot of girls refrain from wearing the hijab because they don't want to stand out. They don't want to be different. They don't want to, they just want to blend in. So to normalize the hijab, which is what these mainstream brands have done, it's helping our community as well. So although it's a very lucrative move, it's also helping, it's helping demystify and normalize hijab. So I'm all for it. I think it's great.
Things might they get wrong?
For example, in the Dolce & Gabbana campaign, I don't know if you noticed, but one of the images, and all Dolce & Gabbana design were long black abayas with black hijabs. That's typically worn in the Gulf. Now, one of the images, the abaya was slightly open and you could see the model's leg. So when I saw that image immediately, as a Muslim, you see something like that and your immediate reaction is, whoa, something is wrong with that photo. And it came off as inauthentic. Number one, because somebody on the Dolce & Gabbana team should have had the foresight. Perhaps they could have had a Muslim consultant to say that image is not going to fly. But number two, and most importantly, it tells me that they don't understand our market. That image goes against everything we believe in. That what's the use of covering up if you're going to show your entire leg? So that's just one example of a way that they can get it wrong. Another example is the Donna Karan campaign. So she had a Ramadan collection, and her narrative was something like, I can't remember exactly the words that she used, but it was basically like, get the attention or be the center of attention or whatever it was. And that narrative, again, goes against what our values and what we're doing dressing modestly. So little tiny nuances like that, and you can get it wrong and completely just miss the mark. It solidifies modest fashion as having a place within the mainstream fashion world, that this is here to stay. It's not just some trend that's going to, eradicate itself. That modest fashion is something that's here to stay, and women from around the world can not only appreciate the designs, but also wear them. You don't have to be a Muslim woman to appreciate modest fashion. So I think, number one, the reason why it was so important to have is to show the world that we're here to stay, that we're professionalizing this very small industry, yet very fast growing industry. And again, to normalize this what we call modest fashion or hijab or Islamic dressing. And at the same time to really rally Muslim designers and Muslim majority countries to gather together to mobilize in one place so that they can get in on it. Whether it's manufacturing or suppliers or designers themselves. I think that for us as Muslim women, or Muslims in general, we need to take the reins, because if we give this responsibility to the mainstream fashion companies, there's a lot that they can get wrong. So modest fashion and this whole space is very deeply rooted in faith, and there are a lot of nuances that a Dolce & Gabbana is not going to understand. And one little thing they do wrong and you've lost your audience completely, and now you've alienated yourself and you come across as disingenuous. It's not authentic anymore. So it's upon us as Muslims to mobilize at events like Istanbul Modest Fashion Week so that we can get in on the game. We can all come together and see what a need there is and see the opportunity, the huge opportunity there is to design for Muslim women.